Ladies and gents, my name is Brandon Stover. Welcome to the How to Solve Climate Change course from Plato University. Causes, systems, obstacles, solutions to this global challenge is what you're going to learn here today. When you're ready to learn more skills, join us for free at plato.university. Let's get started with today's lesson. We'll have our expert guests briefly introduce themselves and their credentials for why they are able to speak to this topic.
I'm Navin Ramankutty. I'm a professor and Canada Research Chair of Sustainable Global Food Systems at the University of British Columbia. My students and I have been doing research on this topic for nearly 2 decades. We use data and models to study the impact of agriculture on the environment and to explore solutions to make our food systems more environmentally friendly. Our research group has published more than 100 scientific papers on the topics of climate change, agriculture, and land use change, and the interactions between climate change and agriculture.
Explain succinctly what agriculture is from first principles.
Agriculture is the growing and management of crops and animals by humans to produce food and other commodities. So for example, we grow maize, wheat, rice, oil palm, and other crops. And we also manage cows, pigs, sheep on our land.
Why is agriculture and our current land use systems a problem for climate change?
Scientists have estimated that a quarter of our climate change problem today is because of agriculture and land use change. There are 3 main ways in which agriculture and land use affect climate. First, when we clear forests and replace them with agriculture, the deforestation releases carbon dioxide or CO2 into the atmosphere. And CO2 is a greenhouse gas that causes climate change. Second, our paddy cultivation, rice paddy cultivation, and animal management causes methane emissions, which is another greenhouse gas that causes climate change. And thirdly, our use of fertilizers on farmland causes nitrous oxide emissions, which is yet another greenhouse gas.
Why is agriculture and land use important to address? What's at stake if we don't address it?
Our Earth is already warmed by a little more than 1 degree Celsius since the pre-industrial era. If we want to prevent this warming from reaching dangerous levels, which currently is estimated to mean limiting total warming to 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial, then we need to do everything we can to reduce all greenhouse gas emissions. I already said that agriculture contributes to a quarter of the total emissions, so we need to reduce its emissions also. A recent study showed that if we reduce all other emissions to zero, except those from agriculture, it'll be impossible to keep warming below the 1.5 degrees Celsius target and very difficult to keep it even below the 2 degrees Celsius target. In other words, just the food system emissions alone will cause us to exceed our warming targets.
How might we eliminate or mitigate these problems of agriculture that are happening with climate change?
I generally think of solutions in terms of 3 broad categories. First, we need to slow down or halt deforestation for agriculture. This is one of the primary causes of carbon dioxide emissions that cause climate change. Second, we need to support our farmers in using environmental best practices, such as limiting tillage, using crop rotations, and using cover crops. This may be through either improving the environmental performance of current conventional agriculture or through switching to alternative agriculture practices, such as organic agriculture or agroecology. Third, we need to think about the demand side of the system itself to reduce our demand for food and other commodities. It is estimated that 1/3 of our food produced globally is lost or wasted. That's a huge leverage point. We can also reduce food demand by shifting our diet to eating more plants. This is because it's far more efficient to get our calories and nutrients from eating plants than eating animal-based products.
What are the best resources to learn more about agriculture in relation to climate change?
The first thing that comes to mind is the free online educational package called Climate Solutions 101 from Project Drawdown. Unit 2 of that package touches on agricultural climate solutions. There's also the Environment Reports briefing on how agriculture affects climate from the Institute on the Environment at the University of Minnesota. And another maybe more Canadian-focused webinar comes from the Broadband Institute on reducing emissions in our food system.
Right now, you're speaking to passionate students who want to actually solve problems like these. What top 3 skills should they study so that they actually have the ability to do so?
That's a great question. There are lots of hard skills that I think can be valuable in many different circumstances, but I'm not really going to touch on that. I think everyone has a pretty good sense on what they're good at, and they can individually figure out how to best deploy those skills. So I focus mostly on soft skills, the kind of things I think about when I teach my students. The most important skill I think I would like all my students to learn is just critical thinking. And to me, this means, first of all, constantly questioning your own assumptions and being open to other arguments counter to your own prior beliefs. That is simply listening to arguments and being willing to change your mind. Second, I think developing a sense of curiosity about the world around us. I don't quite know how you train someone to do that, but I think constantly questioning things is a good way to start. I say become a child again and ask why constantly. And third, I think the ability to build connections and build bridges between people and communities. If we are to solve our global challenges, we do need really smart people, but increasingly we need smart people who can also build coalitions.
Any final recommendations for the audience?
I would say first, try to see the world from a very broad perspective, from like a 10,000 foot view, as we say, and think deeply about our lives on this planet. And on that basis, really think hard about our values. Second, I would say please vote. Having the right people in government who represent your core values is going to make a big difference. Third, I would say in your daily lives, live with as much integrity as possible and try not to forget about your core values. So those are kind of broad comments. I would say lastly, in the context of the topic we discussed today, remember that in the grand sweep of Earth's history, agriculture as we know it has only been practiced for around 10,000 years, while the Homo sapiens species has been around for 200,000 years. So over those 10,000 years, known as the Holocene epoch, we've been super lucky to have a remarkably stable climate compared to the 200,000 years that humans have been around. We developed our agriculture and our civilizations during this really stable climate period. But our Earth's climate is now changing so rapidly, and we are entering a new era, which some scientists have labeled the Anthropocene. Feeding our growing population during the Anthropocene and living sustainably on Earth is going to require a lot of ingenuity, collaboration, and courage. We really have no choice but to work on this challenge together. And hopefully our Homo sapiens species can continue flourishing on this planet for another 10,000 years in harmony with Mother Earth.
A very important part of agriculture is soil health, which can impact our ability to grow crops and how much the soil can sequester carbon. For today's activity, collect soil samples from different areas, such as a garden, park, and paved area. Compare the soil health, texture, and organic matter content in each sample. Reflect on how soil health influences carbon sequestration and the role of land use in preserving healthy soils.
Thank you for taking the How to Solve Climate Change course. If you want to learn the skills to solve this global challenge, join us for free at plato.university for exclusive content, extra resources, and actionable exercises with every lesson. This course was produced by Plato University, where students turn passions into purpose and learn skills to change the world. Learn more at plato.university.